For the first 9 years of my life, I grew up in China, and we used to have quite a lot in China because we did all right. And I used to get a lot of the toys that I wanted to get. And to be honest, I was kind of a spoiled child. But then when I was 9, we came to the UK, and because when Chinese yuan gets put into pounds, it's a lot less, about 1 to 9. So we weren't doing as well, and at times we struggled. And because of that, I really, really hated asking my mum for money every time I went out, because when I wanted to go out with my friends to eat out, of course I'd have to ask her for money. I was like 14, but it really frustrated me and I felt really guilty for it. At the same time, I've always liked making stuff. I started like a teenagers only podcast when I was 14, but I had to lie to everyone and say that I was 16 so that like they wouldn't question the fact that I'm starting the podcast at such a young age. But I did that actually went decently. We did okay, but nothing special. But I always enjoyed the fact that I could make videos and the videos would be seen by people, and some of them would be helpful, some of them would be funny. And I always wanted to have my own channel where I built my personal brand, but it was too scary, way too scary to do that. So then when I was about 15, 16, I want to say year 12, I got this job at Nando's before year 12, the summer before. I went to the kind of summer recruitment event, and the way Nando's recruits is really interesting because they don't do like job interviews. What they do is they get like 40 people to the restaurant on a Sunday morning so that no one's there, it's all empty, and they put you into kind of groups of 7, and then you play survival island. I'm not making it up, you literally play survival island, and they see who's like the most outspoken one, or like the one that's like leading within that game. And of course I'm just a loud person that likes to talk and argue with people, and so I was like questioning everyone's choices in survival island and saying a lot of stuff. And I think genuinely because of that, I was hired despite no prior experience, and I started as a front of house server at Nando's. And then year 12 started, so I started juggling both. There was the start of my A levels. I did business, politics and history and psychology, so 4 A levels, quite a lot. And at the same time, I was at Nando's working about 20 hours a week. But the catch here is that they only paid me £8 an hour, so I was on 160 a week, and for 20 hours of work, that isn't ideal. It's not great, it really isn't, when you work that much with school as well. I remember there'd be days where in the morning I'd wake up early for basketball, so around 7 o'clock I'd go and play basketball before school starts, then I have school until about 3:30, and then after school I'd walk to town and I'll have a Nando's shift from 4 o'clock to 8 p.m. and I'll get home about 9:30. So those were the days that I was living, but I was happy because I was able to have a decent job. People hire, Nando's hired pretty well. So the people who I was working with, I enjoyed working with them. I really did. They were all genuine, nice people that I trusted and also liked. And at the same time, I had my own money, which meant that like when I was going out, I could spend it on my own stuff. And interestingly, I saved it all for a Lenovo laptop, about 800 quid for it, and that broke during my A-level exam season, so don't cheap out on laptops, guys. Life lesson over. Nando's was really frustrating me around Christmas time because it was £8 an hour and there was mocks coming up, and I was actually really struggling with the fact that my co-workers were making more and I was only on £8, and sometimes they would chuck me on these like 8-hour shifts where an entirety of my Saturday would just be lost, and I really couldn't do anything on those weekends. And so I was also doing some research on like personal branding and making TikTok videos, and lo and behold, that people were saying they can make good amount of money with social media. And I thought, well, if there's a chance it happens, I'll give it a shot. So one day, one godforsaken November evening, I sat down and I wrote a whole script out, and I remember sitting like this on my desk. Of course I didn't have a mic back then, and I just put my phone down, and my right leg was like jumping all over the place like just absolutely jumping. because of how nervous I was to do this. And it took me at least 20 takes of each section to get it right, to get it so that I wasn't stuttering through the whole video. And you can see how like it's way easier now, obviously, but first time, wow, I was actually losing it. And at the end, posted a video, I got about 900 views, and it was a video on what is the meaning of life. What a choice for a first video, by the way. And I kept posting because the first video didn't do well. I said, all right, do you know what? That was quite freeing, and I enjoyed the process. And I just edited with TikTok, nothing special, nothing fancy. And then I kept going until one day, I think about 5 videos in, one of my videos blew up. Got about 80,000 views on TikTok. I was hyped, so hyped. And funny enough, it was a video on like best Nando's items that you can buy for cheap, basically. I remember Hook was like, mate, I work at Nando's and here are the 3 best menu items. And it was great. Video did great. People responded to it, and it was hyped. There was a launch of my career. I got about, I think I was on like 400 followers from that, and I enjoyed it, and I kept posting. I think at least 3 more Nando's videos came out talking about how you should get the kids meal and how that was great. And then the next month was kind of a blur because I started posting like study revision content, and that did way better. And for the next 2 years I did that, and there were moments where I would be, I think it was about 13,000 followers, and then I dropped to about 9,000, but then I had this one video where I got like 50,000 followers from it, and my Instagram obviously ballooned from that. It was about 77, and then over the year, just year 12, year 13, keep posting content, I got to about 115,000. And then I went to university. So didn't get into Oxford, obviously, because of the B in history. And instead, I went to UCL. Absolutely fantastic time first year, but it was also the worst of times. It was for a variety of reasons as well. One of the things I really regret was making my relationship public. That was a blunder when we doing that going forward, and that I really struggle with that. What I also really struggle with is that the town I was in, Southend, it was such a small town. Like I had a following, but like no one would know me. Do you know what I mean? But going to London, that was different, and I think if I had to like go to a place that was most condensed with people who watched my videos, it would be London university campuses, literally. And so I'd have people coming up to me and saying, I know you from there, I recognize you, and obviously people were really nice and I really appreciate them. But the fact for me is like, I said this on Instagram, I've always been this kind of self-conscious person. And what content did for me is that it gave me confidence that I really didn't have before. Like in high school, I got mocked because I had a big head, and like my mum used to give me my haircuts. So then like it was like I was really self-conscious about that, because a lot of the times I go and I just get made fun of for it, obviously. Very insecure about that. And so what content kind of did is it gave me this thing where I was like, do you know what? I feel alright by myself now, because I was able to help this many people and impact this many people through my videos. But then when people came up to me in London, it became way more real than it ever was, because it's genuinely real people saying, I know you, I know so much about you, I know the fact that you did make it into Oxford, I know the fact that you did this subject, this subject, this subject. And that really impacted me, because I've always been a shy person who kept kind of a smaller circle, very particular about who I spend my time with. And that got in my head. What also got in my head was just the fact that like my mental health was horrific in the past year. And I had some really low times where you can imagine, combined with this new insecurity of like, when I'm posting, all of these people I'm posting to, they're real people. And so when I used to sit down in the past year, start recording one of these videos, I'd go in the mirror and check in my hair if it's all good. I spend about 10 minutes doing my hair. And then I'd sit down and I'd finally start recording, and then I'll start tripping over my words. And when I was editing it, I'd get insecure as well. And it really, really overwhelmed me. And so I stopped posting for a bit. I stopped posting for a long time. There's some dark times in the past year where genuinely I was like at the depths of hell. And one day I'll make a video talking about it more and giving you guys a whole story. But you can imagine, with everything going on, everything I just told you, combined with kind of the stresses of university and the stresses of my finances, like London at the best of times isn't cheap, led me to a place where I just stopped posting. And when I did post, I was quite rash, just chasing views. And I remember there was a comment on one of my videos, and it kind of described what was going on. It described that, I wasn't getting the views like I used to, for many reasons. And now that I've realized that, I'm kind of chasing the views that I used to have. And I remember like laughing at the comment and just thinking like, I think I replied with like crying emojis and saying what, but deep down that hit me really deep, because I was like, he's spot on. He's absolutely right, but I'm too afraid to admit it. And so the year progressed, and as the year progressed, I would lose about 1,000 followers a week, and obviously that would show on my profile. And every time I go on my Instagram and I see that happening, my heart would like drop, and it would be the most agonizing thing ever, because I couldn't get myself to post consistently because of all the blockers I explained to you. But this thing that I've built, from that guy who was working at Nando's, the thing that boy built from the grounds up, was dying slowly in front of me. And I was suffering. And I still am suffering. I still am upset about that. And it would be this constant cycle of, I'd go on, I'd suffer, and I'd be like, oh my God, I need to post some videos. And the videos I would post wouldn't be ones that I enjoy making. And I was just putting myself through this agonizing chase of this thing that I once built, but obviously isn't there anymore. And that, combined with the fact that it was literally my job, it was my kind of net of financial security, really, really impacted me as a person. And I think it was a contributor to why it was such an unstable year for me. And obviously now it's better times. But just from this video, I kind of like obviously want to tell you guys transparently what has happened, but also just be really realistic about the problems that we face. And if you told David, that was working at Nando's, and you told him that one day he would get to 100,000 followers, he would absolutely laugh in your face, and he wouldn't think that was a real possibility. He would never even dare to dream of it. Only once or twice a week would he dare to even think about the possibility of it succeeding, because he was so terrified that he would try and it wouldn't happen. And then you contrast that with all the struggles I've been through in the past year, when that success has happened to me, and the realistic impact that it has on me as a person that I never thought it would have. I never even thought it through, because at the start you just think about all the glory, all the benefits that it would bring you, and it's brought me immense benefits. But the drawbacks they've also been relatively immense. So just some food for thought for you, with the things that you've been chasing and with the things that you really want in life, and a little bit of reflection on what those things really would bring you, and what fame and money and all these things that you desperately want